Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm Andy. I went from depressed and suicidal to living a life of abundance and joy. If I can do it, you sure as hell can too. Now you got to talk about what you did.
I'm just living my best life.
That's beautiful. We're going to talk about arguments. We're going to talk about fighting. We're going to talk about relationships and all that sort of stuff. Let's give a little bit of context before we get into it.
Hmm.
We argued a fair bit in our first few years of our relationship. We were believing a lot of our own narratives. We were believing a lot of our own stories. We had a lot of baggage. We were both doing our best, but there were quite a few arguments there.
Hmm.
I would say we argued probably, I don't know, once every 2 months.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah. And for the most part, they weren't big fights, but there were a few big fights in there. There are a
Hmm.
few moments where we really believed our own stories and we were sort of really angry and like defensive and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, incredibly emotional with each
Mm,
other.
mm.
And it was often when we were going through some life challenges at the same time, which kind of initiated a lot of these disagreements.
Yeah, like lockdowns in 2020 and moments like that. And then
Yeah.
our relationship and stuff like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
You also had a lot of baggage that you brought along with you from your parents' divorce. I think you firmly believed that a relationship has to be suffering or that it will eventually end.
And there was a lot of closed offness at the
Mm,
start, especially emotionally, around love and being vulnerable,
for
because
sure.
I didn't have very many positive templates for long term relationships.
Yeah, and me too. I had plenty of positive templates from my parents and from a lot of people in my extended family. But my first two major relationships, there was a lot of fighting. There was violence at times from me and from, the woman. And it wasn't happy. It wasn't peaceful. So we both had a lot of baggage.
Mm.
And we're now at a point, we've been at this point for, I don't know, a year or two maybe, something like that, where we don't argue or fight like at all. Like, I can't even imagine us arguing about anything.
And to be clear, we still disagree on some things,
Yeah,
or
but it's more just like, anyway, I'll let you finish.
I might get grumpy and
Mm.
just like frustrated, and it's not directed at one another, but
I
it's
think
just
that's the
like
key.
it's an expression of like I'm in a bad mood.
I
I
think that's the
I
key.
need to kind of have my own space right now, but it's not like fuck you. There's nothing that's actually directed towards you, Andy. So
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like an argument. It's just an expression of my own frustration or unhappiness, and you happen to be there.
Yeah. And I think we've gotten very good at stoicism and realizing that feelings are not truths. And so just because you're feeling sad, doesn't mean that everything is bad and blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
So we're pretty good at not detaching from the emotions, but feeling the emotions wholly, full heartedly, but not placing them or putting them on someone else. So that was something we did in the early days a lot. And I think it's the way that the vast majority of humans think is if I'm sad and you triggered that sadness, then it's your fault.
Mm.
And so we've wholeheartedly steps up outside of that. And these days, if one of us ever is sad, it's like, hey, I'm feeling sad. And then the other person will say, okay, like, can I do anything for you? No, I just need some space right now. Cool.
Mm.
Like, let me know if you need anything else. Whereas in the past, yeah, if we were sad, it was like, you made me sad. And I think we've fully stepped into that, like Byron Katie or Buddhism, or, plenty of therapists, psychologists talk like this. Someone else isn't responsible for your emotions.
Mm.
So, anyway, so at this point, like, we don't really argue. We don't argue at all. And I think the biggest thing has just been taking a self improvement mindset with our relationship, which is something we've done since day one. Since the moment we stepped into this relationship, which was about 9 months into seeing each other, we decided to make it quite serious. And from that moment, we wanted to be better.
Yeah.
We wanted the relationship to be better. And so we just took it as a self improvement fun project, I guess. And we aimed to be like 1% better with the relationship each week, like tiny little baby steps. We did things like having a weekly check in every single week. We spend the entire day together. We take the entire day off, both of us, and we just talk about, I mean, really whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, yes, it is about that self improvement
Mm,
aspect, but a lot of it is just having some quality time together,
mm,
regardless of what's happening in life. And sometimes, yeah, we don't do a perfect job at being present because we're too focused on like the business or the coaching
mm.
or other life things, but it's still making that effort to spend a day with one another.
Yeah. And other things that have helped is like Byron Katie's philosophies. So I Need Your Love, Is That True? Her book, that's probably the most helpful thing, but also loving what is, just general stoicism, focusing on having our own independence. It's very hard to get caught up in an emotion, or sorry, get up. It's very hard to get caught up in emotions and arguments when you're happy with your own life and when you're feeling independent and you feel like, man, my life is really good. So again, that book, I Need Your Love, Is That True, really helps with that. So does like my video course, and I guess all of my content in general really helps with that. The video course is Play to Win. You know, there's a link in the description below to that. But we don't believe, and we never really did believe this, we don't believe that arguments are like a given in a relationship, that you have to argue. Now, not to say if you have a relationship where you argue that there's something wrong with that or bad with that. No. But like, we don't believe that every single couple on the face of the earth has to argue. And I think that most people take that as a given. They're like, yeah, a relationship means sacrifice. A relationship means arguments. A relationship means sometimes you disagree and you yell at each other. I really don't think that has to be the case. And I don't think we ever believed that. I think we just didn't quite know how to get there. But we did know. It was just slowly improve over time. But it took a little bit of time. I don't think we ever I think from the very first moment we ever argued or had some fights, we were like, I don't want this.
Yeah, there wasn't the belief that this needs to be happening.
Yeah,
or this is inevitable. There wasn't that thought.
Yeah.
For either of us.
Yeah. So all of this leads into a fun little video series that I've been doing where I asked ChatGPT, the AI, I asked the computer robots, can you basically give me some suggestions on like how you would tackle this sort of discussion? And so I asked ChatGPT, this is the prompt that I used. I said, hey, ChatGPT, I'm doing a video or YouTube video that'll be fun and entertaining. The title is How to Have Healthy Conflict in a Relationship, according to an AI. You are obviously the AI I'm referring to. I write that so ChatGPT doesn't get jealous, thinking I'm like...
Do you think ChatGPT is going to get jealous?
Yeah, it might do. One day. I'm just trying to make peace with the AI before it, takes over the earth. And So give me your best advice, and I'm going to do a video on it, basically rating how good I think your advice is, adding my own advice, etc. So cute little ChatGPT gives you this whole thing here, blah, blah, blah. The bit that I like the most is like, remember that these are general guidelines and every relationship is unique. So feel free to adapt them to your own experiences and insights. Yeah, like every single video that Imogen and I ever do, or the ones that I do by myself, is us or me just saying what has worked for us. It isn't a guarantee that it'll work for anyone else. A big part of my philosophy is experiment, try different things, tweak it, see what works for you.
Yeah. Effective communication. Am I reading the whole thing?
Hell yeah, lady, read the whole thing.
Open and honest communication is key to resolving conflict in a healthy way. Encourage active listening, express your feelings using I statements, and be respectful of each other's perspectives. And as we go through this, we've kind of discussed that they're not actually bad answers, but
these are fucking good answers, yeah.
It does sound very safe, like it's been written for like a top 10 advice by your friendly local psychologist. Like relationship counselor.
ChatGPT is always very safe and like, it's good advice, but yeah, it always does. It doesn't say it in the same voice that maybe I might say some things or you might say some things, for sure. Yeah. But it's good advice. Any comments on this advice?
Well, I think that's been, as we've already mentioned, the core of our relationship and what we do is communication and doing our best. And we're certainly not always perfect. I think often when you're very emotional, it's easy to switch off all listening and just kind of try and drill in your point again and again. You're like, I am listening. Like, I feel like that's a pretty common response. But what you're actually doing is like, I heard and received the words that you're saying, but I really want to force my opinion down your throat. And I'm actually not going to take anything you say on board because you need to believe that I'm right. And I think that's where maybe we've had bigger disagreements because we've both been pretty set on our beliefs.
Like trying to be right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I hear what you're saying, but you're fucking wrong. Like, that's kind of been the sentiment. So actually listening is, I think, a good start.
I think a question that's helped us a lot in those moments, especially in the early days when we did argue, is I would ask myself, and you would ask yourself too, would I rather be right or would I rather be happy? And I think often in the middle of an argument, people can sort of see it as the other person is the enemy and I have to beat them and I have to prove that they're wrong and I have to be right. And it's like, yeah, but even if I win this argument or this discussion, we're talking about arguments, not discussions. If I win this argument, will I actually be happy that I won? No. If I win, the other person feels defeated and sad. And this is my fucking partner that I'm talking about. Why do I want my fucking partner to feel defeated and sad?
I know. And I think sometimes when you're in that anger, maybe righteous anger moments.
Yeah, the anger just wants to be right.
Yeah. And then sometimes even the thought that like, if they would shut up and agree with what I'm saying, we'd both admit that I'm right, we'd both be happy and we could move on. Like if they would just agree with me, we would both be happy, which isn't the case. But when you're in that moment, I think you often
Yeah,
believe it
that
to
was
be
definitely
so.
us for the first 2 years. It was like trying to beat each other over the head. Me more than you.
Mm.
Your approach to arguments was almost always to just give in and say, fine, you're right, even when you didn't believe it or mean it.
Mm.
And then you were never passive aggressive, but like you would internalize that lowering of your own self-esteem by admitting something that you didn't actually believe. You're basically lying to yourself when you say, fine, Andy, you're right. You didn't really believe that. And I
Mm.
think that just sort of like lowered your self-esteem and you internalized that. And then eventually you got to a point because we were working on improving your self-esteem, like over the relationship.
Funnily enough, at the start, there wasn't much conflict because I would give in
Mm,
a lot of the
mm,
time. But then as I started to assert myself more, that's where the conflict actually
mm,
started to occur because I was actually like, no, I don't agree with you or
mm,
believe in what you're saying. Like,
mm.
no, fuck you.
Yeah, yeah. I think another thing that isn't said here is, I guess, similar to what we were just talking about, is humility.
Mm.
Having the humility to say, you know what, if I'm wrong, and it isn't even about, finally you get to a point where you realize it's not even about right or wrong, but in the initial stages, if you have the humility to say, fine, if I'm wrong, at least I get to be peaceful. Like if this argument ends right now, I get to be peaceful. And if you can step into that humility and be willing to be wrong, and again, it isn't even about being right or wrong. We'll
Mm.
talk about that in a second. But if you can just step into that and say, fine, I'm wrong, cool. At least now I get to be peaceful. I get to go and eat some breakfast or have a nice time or hang out with you or go for a walk or go be by myself or see my friend. If you can really step into that, it's basically prioritizing peace above being right.
Mm.
And I think that the way the ego works and the way most people work is they would rather be right rather than happy or right rather than peaceful. Byron Katie has a really beautiful quote. It only takes one person to end a war. And that person may as well be you. If you're the one that wants to be peaceful, you go first.
Mm.
I think a lot of the time, like you said, in an argument,
Mm.
both people are sitting there saying, well, you just admit that you're wrong so we can both be peaceful. And it's like, motherfucker, what if you just go first? What if you do the thing that you're expecting your partner to do? And I know that you can do it because you're just expecting them to just immediately do it. So it should be easy because you're telling them to just stop everything and do it. So you go first.
Mm.
So I think stepping into that has really helped both of us. It's like that complete dissolution or slightly letting go of the ego and that need to be right and just stepping into peace and like happiness. Because at the end of the day, at some point you and I decided I would rather be right, I would rather be happy than win this argument. And I think that was when the true peace really started. And we weren't perfect from that point. It took a little while. It took a couple of years.
And I definitely still don't feel perfect in that regard. Like, I think maybe I feel very compelled by my emotions sometimes when I'm feeling very, very strongly.
Yeah, but you don't project that in the same way that you used to. You
Sure.
don't dump that. You feel the emotion and you have the tools to say, hey, I'm feeling really sad right now, Andy. Or I just don't feel like I have a lot to give. That's another thing that we learn to say in those moments when you're really emotional. We say, look, I don't have anything to give right now. I don't think I can spend time with you. I don't think I'm going to be very pleasant to be around. I really don't think I can put on a happy face right now. I have nothing in the tank. My tank is empty. I can't give anything. And we're both, it took a lot of practice. We're both really good at hearing that and going, I understand. Whereas in the past,
Yeah, a lot less so. And I think that actually, I'm not sure if you have more to say on that point, but leads perfectly into the second point of
let's do it. Yeah, second point.
choosing the right time and place. And as you
Oh,
said, like
yeah.
knowing when you don't have anything to give, and now is not the good time to have this discussion, whether you're really emotional, you're really tired, you know that you can't be rational and you're not in a good space to actually have a peaceful discussion when you're already feeling super emotional. Often it can be, and this is something we've both definitely gotten better at, is taking some time and not needing to deal with it immediately.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the time, and maybe I might be wrong in saying this, but I think you were like, no, we need to deal with this right now.
I used to always want to fix everything. I did a podcast about this on my Spotify channel, which you can go on there and check it out, which was, we don't always have to fix women's emotions. It was called something like Why Women Cry, brackets, we don't always have to fix women's emotions. Anytime you were sad, I used to want to just get in there like with a screwdriver and a hammer and a little fix-it kit and go like, I got to fix her sadness. I got to fix her anger. I got to fix her emotionality.
Yeah, but even sometimes we would be having, and I'd be like, I don't want to talk, like, I just don't
You would
want to
actively
talk
say,
about
listen,
this.
I'm not ready
and you're like,
right
no,
now.
you're just avoiding the problem, like, you're not dealing with it, you're running away from things. And I feel like
for
that,
sure.
learning to give each other space, it's been...
That was so fucking hard. You don't understand how
I'm aware for you that it was
understand
very
how
hard.
it was. Yeah, like everything. Hang on, let's move that. It's blocking your pretty little face. Everything inside me, and my beautiful face is getting blocked too. everything inside me was like, I gotta fucking fix this. She's sad. I'm a man, and if I don't fix this, then I'm a bad boyfriend, and I'm a bad partner, and I'm a bad man, and everything, like everything inside me was screaming like, if she's sad, you gotta fix it.
Yeah, there's the comedy like YouTube video that exemplifies this. It's called "It's Not About the Nail,"
Yeah.
and it's a parody on this concept that women are often the ones of like, I just want to listen and talk about my feelings, and
And
men are
men,
often like, I need to fix it. And anyway,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I think that quote that we said has just helped. I don't have anything to give right now. I think that's really helped us a lot. And again, that's about bringing it back to yourself and speaking about you and your position rather than blaming the other person. So that statement of, I don't have anything to give right now, you could also express that as like, you're annoying me right now. Leave me alone. You won't give me space. But you see how that just immediately jumps into like a combative mindset? So I think bringing it back to yourself has really helped us and saying, look, I don't have very much right now, or I'm tired, I'm grumpy. And you can do that preemptively. And we always have. So like if we were going to hang out, like let's say we were going to see each other, an hour from now, and one of us was just really tired and really grumpy and just had gone through a lot of stuff and we were believing all of our stories that day and we just weren't feeling good. We would text each other ahead of time and say, hey, like, I'm just feeling really grumpy today. Do you still want to hang out? I'm going to be a bit grumpy, or I might be a bit grumpy. You can't predict the future, but I might be a bit grumpy. Do you still want to hang out? And then sometimes the other person will say, no, let's just leave it till tomorrow then. Because, like, I'm feeling a bit grumpy too. So there's that. Or sometimes we'll just say, no, it's cool. Thank you for telling me. I'll now be a lot more gentle. I'll be a lot more quiet. I won't expect you to be super happy. That was another thing I used to do. I used to put all of these conditions on, I guess, your emotions. I used to need you, or I believed that I needed you to be happy if we were to hang out. Because I was like, come on, like carpe diem. We've only got a limited time on this earth. And if you're going to sit there in negativity and sadness, then you're wasting my time and
yeah, and
all of
sometimes
that.
that in itself would start conflicts because like, why are you why are you being sad? Like, why are you ruining this?
Yeah,
You're making it hard to spend time together.
I think I put a lot of pressure on you to like sort of not always, but like most of the time be happy, especially when we're going through long periods of time where we were both a bit, or one of us was a bit depressed. When we were going through periods of like the lockdowns, when we first moved here, you were a bit depressed. Like after we'd moved from the lockdowns, we moved to this current city, you were a bit depressed. And I think during those periods of time, you put pressure on me to just be happy when I wasn't. And I absolutely put pressure on you to be happy when you weren't. And so I think there is sort of an acceptance there as well. And not needing the other person to be a certain way, that has helped us. I don't think ChatGPT suggested that, but that's probably my biggest suggestion is read the book, I Need Your Love, Is That True?
I don't think ChatGPT suggested
No,
read
no,
the
no,
book.
but,
I need
but
your love. Is that
the
true?
philosophies around it. So the concept of not needing anything from your partner. So Buddhism helps with that as well. Like Buddhism is just non-attachment. So like non-neediness or outcome independence or abundance mindset, whatever you want to call it. It's basically saying, look, if my partner's grumpy and sad and they want to have a fight, that's cool. I'm just gonna go do my own thing. I'm gonna have like my own shit going on. So I think self-improvement, independence, and not needing anything from your partner. I think once we let go of that need that we used to have, and we had so many needs. We had needs around sex, we had needs around happiness, we had needs around, you have to listen to me. That was another one. Remember? You used to say that.
Yeah, when you weren't able to give, weren't able to give, you didn't have enough to give, and I had something that was really upsetting me, or I wanted to talk about something, and sometimes you would say no. And I think sometimes my frustration was because I said yes to listening to you when I didn't want to all of the time. There were lots of times it was like, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be listening to this, but I would take it on. And then sometimes you wouldn't give the same to me, and then there was a lot of frustration there.
Oh my God, that opens up like a whole can of beautiful worms. Okay, so there's two things there. There's the expectation of it has to be fair, like equal. And so many people in relationships get themselves into so much pain and suffering. And we did for the longest time, believing, look, if I'm giving something to you, you have to give me the exact same thing back. It has to be fair. If I do the dishes 5 nights a week, that's not fair. We should.
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
I was going to say, and most importantly, I think that I was doing something that I didn't want to do. And there was always going to be
That was the second thing I was going to say.
frustration and resentment there because like, I don't want to be doing this. And there's that, you put that on your partner and you hang on to that over time, and that's going to come out in other ways.
That's a third thing then. Okay, people have the story that a relationship has to be sacrifice or people use the word compromise, but they mean sacrifice. So they'll say, if there's something I don't want to do, I have to just suck it up and do it anyway because that's part of a relationship.
Certain
and it's like,
things,
that's
yeah.
called dishonesty. That's called a lack of integrity. That's called lying to yourself and your partner. No, don't do something you don't want to do. That's called hurting yourself. Why would you hurt yourself? Now, do you find solutions that are mutually, like you're mutually happy within a relationship? Absolutely. But I wouldn't call that a compromise. And I think that comes from the idea of sacrifice in a relationship, like sacrificing when you don't want to. That's what I mean when I say the word sacrifice. I think that idea, and that a relationship has to sometimes be suffering or sacrifice or pain or giving up something you don't want to do, sorry, doing something you don't want to do. I think that comes from the idea of, or the neediness in a relationship. People believe I need my partner. I need them. Like I literally need them. So I'm going to have to make a sacrifice. Otherwise they could leave me and that would be bad. So I think that's yet another thing that has really helped us. And it took us a little while. I was already there to begin with, but it took you a little while getting to the point where I was like, wait, I don't need this relationship to be happy. And that was like one of your sacred cows that we slayed. Because for a long time, remember, you believed I would be fucked if I wasn't with Andy.
Yeah, and I think part of being in a relationship for the first time, there was a very, very, very strong. I think I give myself a little bit of grace and say that, like Romeo and Juliet, like they fucking killed each other because they'd been in love for 2 days, and
Because they believed that they needed each other. Yeah, what
And
a
it's-
fucking what a beautiful analogy. Yeah,
and it's that drama of like the first relationship. I'm in love for the first time. I need like all of those things, and I think all of those feelings very much played into the beginning of our relationship.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, and it was just letting go of, excuse me, letting go of all of that, and building your own independence that helped. Self-improvement helped. Questioning what bad thing happens if we do end this relationship, which is something I put in my video course. There's a whole chapter in there of like questioning your biggest fears and going deep on them and saying, what bad thing happens if this thing that I'm afraid of actually ends up happening? We have to do that with our relationship.
Was something that actually brought me a lot of peace was honestly just playing out the steps I would go through if we were to break up. And I've done that at multiple times throughout a relationship.
As in what you would do to be okay.
Yeah, like how my life direction would change, what things I might do. And I almost, and people might say this is an unusual or a negative thing, but I would almost say like all of these other doors open up because like I love all of the doors that it's opened being in our relationship. But what you said in the video course that you just released was like, how is this a good thing?
Yeah,
I
there's
was
an
kind
entire chapter on everything that happens can be good.
I was doing that and I was like, okay, but if we did break up, what are all these new doors that can open up for me? How could this be a good thing? What's the exciting new life paths that I could go on? And there was so much more peace in that I could actually, and as we've said and spoken about, I think in podcasts and a lot with each other, that I could actually fully let go and enjoy the time together. And I was actually a lot more grateful because there wasn't a sense of like, I just have to endure this and I have to be here because I have no other choice. It was actually a sense of I'm choosing to be here and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, when you let go of the neediness of the relationship, as in when you let go of the need to be in the relationship, when you can fully step into, like you said, realizing that it would be a beautiful thing if the relationship ended. It would be beautiful if it kept going. It would be beautiful if it ended because you would just do things to make it beautiful, right? Like and that's just playing that exercise out, going, okay, if we were to break up, if the thing that I am most afraid of ends up happening, what would I do? And for a lot of people, that can be a little scary to go to that place and start exploring that. So be gentle with it if you do that. But this applies to all fears. You go in there, you say, what would I do? And if you're willing to be extra brave, and you were, you say, what are 3 reasons why it would be a good thing if we broke up? What are 3 reasons why my life might be better if we broke up? And you go digging and you think, well, I'd have more independence. That'd be kind of nice. I'd probably have a little more free time for my friends and family. Hey, that'd be cool. You know, I haven't caught up with this friend and my mother and this person for a while. So yeah, I'd probably go and see them and spend a bit of time. Maybe I'd go traveling. Yeah, I kind of like traveling and I don't really travel with my partner because, you know, blah, blah, whatever reason. Wow, there's 3 reasons. And that doesn't mean that you then go like, hey, I'm desperate to break up with this person. But it's about seeing that no matter what happens in your life, it'll be fucking beautiful because you'll find ways to make it beautiful. So I think stepping into that power, that self-love, that independence, realizing, hey, I don't need the other fucking person. Like you said, you can then sit there and look at them and they're just now a gift because you don't need them. And something that you don't need but you have anyway, we call that a gift. We call that a bonus. We're like, holy shit, I'm grateful for this. If I was to just, any of you right now, if I was to just give you $100 out of nowhere for no reason, you'd be like, holy fuck, I wasn't expecting $100. This is amazing. But do you feel that way every time your boss gives you $100? No. Because you believe that you need, or that you're owed, or that you deserve, or whatever, that $100 from your boss. It doesn't come with the same sense of gratitude. So if you can look at a relationship as every single day a beautiful gift that you weren't necessarily expecting and that you don't think you need, or that you know that you don't need, man, you wake up every day, and this is how you and I feel. You wake up every day and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing that you're here. I can't believe you're here. This is, wow, this is so fucking beautiful. But if you need it, then there is no gratitude. And every single time you have an argument or the slightest disagreement because you feel you need the person, and also not just need them, most people believe not just that they need their partner, but that they need the relationship to be a certain way. It needs to be happy. We need to be loving. We need to be all smiles and rainbow. We need to never argue. You need to be kind to me. You should be there for me. You should listen to me. You have to. Relationship has to be equal. Has to be fair. You have to be good for me. There's so many fucking conditions and neediness on a relationship. And when you have all of that, the first time any of that goes slightly astray, like maybe your partner is sick for a week and they can't do the dishes because they're fucking sick. And then you're like, but I need the relationship to be equal. Fuck you, why aren't you doing the dishes? And then that's where conflict comes. So all conflict comes from believing stories. And a lot of it in relationships from neediness and believing that you need something.
Yeah.
I'm going to read number 3.
Focusing on the issue and not the person. When conflicts arise, avoid attacking or blaming the other person. Instead, address the specific issue at hand and work together to find a resolution.
That's so good. ChatGPT, good job. You know what, ChatGPT, you can take over the earth.
Well, I think they've pulled from lots and lots of articles on the same thing, so they've probably gotten the stuff that gets brought up the most.
Humans, good fucking job. So it's most humans that wrote this, yeah. They probably pull from like psychologists and stuff like that, because this is all stuff that most therapists will tell you.
Yeah, you never make it an I thing. Never have like you statements. Never say like you're being unfair or you're making me upset. You're being like you switch that around to I am feeling upset when X, Y, and Z happens. Being a lot more logical and focusing on the more factual, the more tangible, rather than the blaming or the emotive. Is very much up to interpretation a lot of time. If I say you're being annoying or you're annoying me, that's 100% subjective.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say when you pat me like a cat and it tickles, that starts making me feel annoyed.
Yeah, talk about how you feel and your response to it. And obviously that doesn't mean putting up with a behavior or something that's a deal breaker to you, obviously. But focus on yourself rather than blaming the other person, especially if it's something like, your partner doesn't do the dishes and you get very angry. I think the vast majority of people would be like, yeah, my partner should have done the dishes. And it's like, should they? They didn't. So now what? Are you going to sit there and argue with reality and get angry, and how does that feel inside you and all of that? Or you could just, 1, do the dishes yourself and then there's peace in the household. 2, sit down with them and have a conversation and say, hey, look, it's kind of important to me that we do the dishes. 3, look for some sort of solution. That's why I love that they say work together to find a resolution. The resolution might be you come to your partner and you say, hey, I noticed that you never really do the dishes. Look, what do you want? Like, do you want to do the dishes? Or have I just been expecting that you would do the dishes in my time frame when I would when I expect them to? Is that unrealistic? Like, what do you actually want?
Yeah, and as this point says, like when you make it about the person, if you start that conversation being like, you're lazy and you don't contribute and you should be doing more, what do you think the outcome's going to be in that situation?
In that situation, if you tell the other person, you're lazy because you don't do the dishes, what they hear, and yes, what they hear is, you're lazy. I'm lazy. Their brain internalizes, I'm lazy. And then you're expecting a lazy person to do the dishes. You just said, you're lazy. It's like, you see a cat and it goes meow and you go, you're meowing. Why the fuck are you meowing? Because it's a cat. And so if you really believe that your partner is lazy and then you tell them that they're lazy, so they internalize that too, why would you then expect them to do the dishes? And so that's what we mean, where it's like you can sit down and go like, look, it doesn't seem like you want to do the dishes. Like, do you want to do the dishes? And do that in we've found it beneficial to do that in a non-judgmental way. But hey, look, I've noticed that it doesn't seem like you want to do the dishes. Is it just like not important to you? And this is a conversation you and I had, even recently, like a year ago. Whereas like Andy,
left the dishes in the sink.
I take so much longer to do the dishes because I just don't give a shit. I really just don't give a shit. And you were frustrated by that for quite a while. And then at some point, basically you were just like, do you actually even care about doing the dishes? Like when do you want to do the dishes kind of thing?
Probably a week from when they're sitting in the sink.
Yeah, and I was like, I just don't care. I'll do the dishes whenever I want to. And then
Mm.
I think you stepping into that was like, oh, okay. Because I used to get bothered by little things that you did too. Like, remember the microwave thing?
Still do that.
Yeah. And so that used to bring me so much frustration. And then at some point, I was just like, wait, you're doing this because this is the way you like to do things, right? And you were like, yeah, I like to do it like that. And I was like, oh. So I've been getting frustrated for the last, like, I wasn't getting that frustrated, but like, I've felt this frustration for this long time, but I never actually asked you, like, what do you want? So I think that's yet another thing that I think it's the next thing that that ChatGPT is going to read out. So maybe I won't spoil it, but basically, like, ask the other person rather than just assuming what they're doing is wrong. Like they don't do the dishes and that's wrong. You could just sort of say, like, hey, what you're doing right now, are you happy with that? And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yeah, I like to do it like this. Or I don't like to. I don't like to put the trash out. I don't give a fuck about putting the trash out. I don't give a fuck about mowing the lawn. And then you can be like, oh, well, there's lots of shit I don't give a fuck about. And if someone tried to make me do that, I'd probably get really defensive and I wouldn't want to do it. And I'd be like, stop trying to change me. Leave me alone. So I think there is, and that's the next one. So I am kind of spoiling it. But
How about you read out?
yeah,
number
let's
4?
let's read the next one. You read out the next one. Well, I'm getting you to read it out so I can drink my water because I'm really thirsty. I'm a thirsty little boy.
Number 4, seek understanding. Try to understand the other person's point of view. Empathy and active engagement can help create a safe space for open dialogue.
Yeah, this is a beautiful one. I like this one. This has really helped. I think, there's that Buddhist saying, all suffering is ignorance. And the word ignorant kind of comes with a lot of connotations. So I like to say all suffering is a lack of understanding. You only suffer because you don't know something. So for instance, as an example, let's say your boss is mean to you at work one day. And you're suffering from that. You're like, man, my boss is a dick. He shouldn't be like this. He should be nice. He should respect me. I'm never going to work a job where I'm respected. I'm never going to get that promotion. This sucks. Like, you're suffering. But then what if I was to come along and tell you, hey, did you know your boss's wife just left him like last week? And his mother's dying of cancer. And he's really not taking it well. And he's actually having an existential crisis. And he's having a midlife crisis. And he comes to work and he takes it out on all of you. And that's not kind, but he's doing that because he's really close to a fucking breakdown. He's actually been considering suicide. If I tell you all of that, do you now suffer the same way? Or you're like, oh, fuck. Okay. I didn't know that. Fuck. Thank you for telling me that. You can't suffer now. And anytime your boss is a dick to you now, you might have that little feeling or that little story that says they shouldn't be mean to me. But then it kicks in, that knowledge, that understanding, that empathy kicks in, and you go, man, maybe I'm going to be nice to him so he doesn't fucking kill himself this week. So you don't suffer.
And I think a good example of where this has really helped us, the understanding and figuring out how to understand one another, has been our views on money.
Yeah, money is the one thing that we both had very different views on.
And I think when we got a better sense and actually had a more productive conversation about like why do we feel this way about money? Where are we coming from when we express these beliefs about money? It was a lot easier to give one another some grace and actually like make compromises. And I know you don't like the word compromises, but I can't think, make choices around.
Yeah, it wasn't a compromise. Compromise is just such a tainted word.
I know you don't like it, but it helps for the sake of communication.
Yeah. I just mean, I want to give context every time we say the word compromise and sacrifice, because people will take that. They'll go into their next argument and say, you should sacrifice for me. You need a compromise. And it's like, oh, that's not what we meant. So it's more like coming up with a mutually happy solution where we both win. It doesn't have to be a win-loss. And that's what I see as compromise, is one person wins, one person loses, or both people slightly lose.
Yeah, but we were only able to do that once we actually took the time to understand why one another believe that, rather than just saying like, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, and as soon as we got that understanding, and that really did require an open mind and an open heart, because for a long time, you're right, we did argue about money. And both of us were just talking past each other. We were literally just like, I was like, you should have views like this on money. And you were like, your views should be like this. And we're just like speaking past each other. And then at some point, I don't know who, one of us was just like, wait, why do you think that way about money? And then you explain, we both explained it. And then we were like, oh. And it's that beautiful statement that you and I have said 1 billion times in our relationship. When you get understanding, where I will then say to you, you know what, if I'd been through your history, I'd probably feel the same way you do.
And as you said with the boss example before, you're so much more willing to edit your behaviors and actions because there's that.
You want to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah.
empathy with the other person there. You.
Mm.
It really is just empathy. You're seeing them as a human all of a sudden, and you're being like, oh, actually, I can accommodate that.
Yeah. Empathy is such a beautiful.
You can almost you see that like you're not just doing this to fuck me. Like this isn't to spite
There are
me.
reasons why you're like this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what understanding and empathy is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time in an argument, it's because, like, the Buddhism saying all suffering is from a lack of understanding. I would say all arguments are from a lack of understanding. Or maybe another way of saying that is with understanding, there's no arguments.
Mm.
With saying like, why do you believe this? Or why are you feeling like this? Why are you yelling at me right now? Why are you pissed off at me? Why have you been giving me the cold shoulder for the last month? And when you ask that question, it's been helpful for us to ask it in a very open-minded way. And even saying that at first, we don't need to say that anymore. But at the start, the first, 100,000 times we did this, we were like, look, I'm not judging. I promise you I'm not judging. I'm genuinely just trying to understand. Why are you really mad at me right now? And you're giving me the cold shoulder. Like please, explain to me. I promise I will listen and I won't defend. And the first 1,000 times we tried this, we did defend. Me especially, I was very defensive. But you do your best not to defend. And I would defend, and then I'd be like, oh, God, I defended, didn't I? Fuck, I got into an argument. Okay, fuck, let me try again. And I would try again, and then I was still doing it. Remember those days? And like we would try like 5 times in a row, and I would just get defensive every time. And then I'd be like, oh, let's take a fucking break. Okay, let's try again tomorrow. I'm trying so hard not to argue with you. And like it took practice.
Would you like to, on that very lovely segue again, would you like to read number 5?
Oh, the next one is perfect, yeah. You're doing good with segues, by the way. Avoid escalation and take breaks. Yeah. So oh my God. If emotions run high during a conflict, it's okay to take a break and cool down. We did that so many times. We'd be like, hey, I just need a break. I need to hit pause. Let's talk about this in a minute. And I would do that too.
And the beautiful thing is and often I find when I'm feeling very, very emotional when we're having a discussion, I'll go like watch an hour of stupid YouTube videos. And then like all the emotions are gone because you've just switched off for an hour.
Yeah,
and then you realize I don't care. I was just really emotional and I feel a bit silly. But the beautiful thing is as this says, I stopped before it escalated. I took that break and then everything was fine.
Yeah, we didn't used to do that.
A good sleep solves a lot as well.
Or remember you would used to take a break and then I would just come in there like we'd take a break from like a conflict or whatever.
For like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I would give you like 5 minutes and then you'd be watching like a movie or something and I'd come in and I'd be like, my God, this is usually the female stereotype. Maybe I'm gendering it, but in my mind, this was always the female stereotype. I'd come in and I'd be like, honey, like we need to talk. Like, we can't just let this go unresolved. And you'd be like, just let me watch my movie, please. And then we'll talk.
I'm so angry right now. I can't
and I'd be like,
physically have a discussion.
Like, yeah, because I was believing the story that I needed you to not be angry at me or that I needed to resolve all conflict. That was another story that I had. I guess, I don't know if that's in here, but that was a big one, was like, not all conflict. It's not that it doesn't have to be resolved, but it doesn't have to, you have to fucking like resolve it right there. Like, and that was definitely a story that I had. It's like, no, come on, we have to fix this. You're right. At some point, we just both got really good at going, yo, let me just take a break.
And I think what gave me a lot of peace in those moments was actually understanding that a lot of the time it's not about me. Like when I need to, like
what do you mean? When you're angry and you take a break, or when I took a break?
So if I'm if I'm frustrated, I go and take a break and watch a movie for an hour. It's actually got very little to do with you, Andy.
Oh yeah, you're almost never angry at me. You're angry at what you're believing.
And a lot of the time when you would do something similar, a lot of the time I would tell stories about like, he's angry at me, he's so mad at me that he can't stand to be around me. And often it's those stories or those beliefs that then contribute to you like doing what you said. And I would do it too sometimes, like coming in and being like, no, we need to talk about this. Because
I can't have you being angry at me right now. I can't have you taking space from me right now. It hurts too much. I feel guilty.
Yeah. I can't have you despise me for the next, that hurts and I need to end that because it's bringing me discomfort. But almost understanding it's like, no, they're just not like having a tantrum, but kind of like they're just feeling emotional right now. It's fine. Yeah. They're allowed to feel like that and it'll be okay. It's kind of like how you treat a kid. It's like they're just really like when the 5-year-old screams at mum that he hates her because she's not letting him have ice cream. You don't take that on board and say like, oh my God, my son hates me.
I'm a bad mother. My son hates me.
Oh, they're a bit upset right now. It's fine. I'll let them kind of play out their emotionality and then it'll be okay again.
And I think that's the understanding and the empathy part is just, no, they're just a bit grumpy right now. And I think that's also removing that need. Removing your need to have your partner always be happy with you. Removing the need to never have your partner be mad at you. Removing the need to never let your partner think that you're a bad person or that you're a bad partner or that you're bad in relationships is about not controlling that narrative and just saying, yeah, if they're pissed at me, so what? And something that also helped was, like we said before, playing that out to its end. So all sorts of thoughts happen in your head when, you're having a conflict or your partner's mad at you or something. It's like, fuck, they're mad at me and they're going to hate me and they're going to leave me. It's like, so what? Then what? What will I do then? And really going into that space. And I had to do that hundreds, maybe thousands of times. When you were mad at me and you took a break and went and did your own thing until you calmed down, my brain was like, fuck, she's going to leave me. And then I would go like, so what? Like, what do I care if she leaves me? Then she'll go and have a beautiful life. I'll go and have a beautiful life. So what? Okay. What are 3 reasons why that would be a good thing? Well, then she would get to go and work on her anger issues not that you had anger issues, but like she would get to go and work on her anger by herself and be happy. That'd be beautiful. I could go and spend more time with my friends. That'd be beautiful. I would build another life and I'd either find someone else to start a relationship with, or I'd just be single forever, or I'd date casually, sleep with lots of women, whatever the hell, it doesn't matter. But like, I would find a way to be happy. So I think removing that need definitely helped.
For sure.
So breaks definitely helped.
Number 6.
Go on then. We'll read number 6, you cheeky little fucking lady.
Find common ground. Look for areas of agreement or shared goals. Building on common ground can help create a foundation for resolving conflicts and finding compromises.
That's a good one. One of my big philosophies in general in life, not just in relationships, but in general, is you're on the same team. So it's not me versus you, which I think a lot of people, especially in a fight, and we used to have this all the time. In a fight, it's like, it's me versus you now. It's like realizing, like stepping back from that and realizing, wait, this is my partner who loves me very much and has shown me so much evidence of that. And she wants to be happy and I want to be happy and we want to build something great together. Wait, this is my teammate. Why am I fucking yelling at my teammate? And so from that position, you can go, okay, how are we teammates? Like, what is that common ground? And I think understanding, to go back to the previous one of understanding and empathy, you can look for understanding, or you can ask and inquire and say, hey, help me understand how we're on the same team right now. Help me understand how we have common ground. And looking for those places where on the Venn diagram it overlaps, rather than looking at the places where it doesn't overlap. So in other words, rather than focusing on the bits you disagree with, which is what most people do in an argument, focus on the things you do agree. Look for common ground. So if you're in the middle of an argument, she says you don't do the dishes enough and you say, yes, I do. Look at where you do agree and you go, okay. Do we both agree that we don't want the house to go to complete shit and have cockroach infestation? And she goes, yes. And you go, well, yeah, I want that too. Okay. What else do we agree on? And she's like, I want the house to be nice and clean. I want the kitchen to be clean. And you go, well, yeah, I kind of want that too. Okay, so we both want that. Okay, what else do we agree on? And then maybe you keep agreeing, and then eventually you get to a point where you're like, oh, fuck, the only thing we disagree on is the time scale. You think, or you want the kitchen to be cleaned every single day. I want the kitchen to be cleaned roughly once every 3 days. Okay, so we actually fucking agree. We just slightly disagreed on the time scale. Can we now meet in the middle a little bit? Would you like, even most of the time, just having that conversation, you're like, oh, so we actually agree. We just disagree on the time scale. You know what? Actually, I don't need anything to change.
Yeah, it's now okay as long as I know that it eventually gets done. Yeah, there's lots of things there. And I think zooming out even further, something that I can't remember where we read or heard it, but is it everybody wants to be, is it loved, happy, and understood? Yeah. Something along those lines. But the point being that basically all that we ever do or we're ever seeking is to just be loved, to be happy.
And to be understood.
To kind of create a nice life where we're having a good time. And I think when you can see that in everybody and understand that that's at the core of what drives us, it's so much easier to see the innocence in what people were doing. And I think like even pulling that back to a situation that affected us was that like the pressure that you put on me to look a certain way at times, when I was able to step back and see like there was innocence in that on your part, that you were seeking me to appear a certain way so that other people would accept you, for you to feel worthy to kind of have that self-love.
Yeah, that was a big one. So for full context, there was a long period of time where I wanted you wanted it too, but I wanted you to dress really pretty and put effort into your appearance because for validation more than anything, so that strangers on the internet would say like, wow, this guy has a pretty girlfriend. It was literally just that. Yeah. And yeah, like you realizing that and me explaining it to you and you asking, you being open to it, but me explaining all of that to you, you're right. It's like you see the innocence in that and you're like, oh, sweetheart. Like, do you really need the strangers on the internet to tell you that your girlfriend is pretty? And then it's like, no, I don't. Like,
And I think finding the common ground in that and being like, yeah, I do things too so that other
yeah,
people will approve of
yeah.
me.
And then you saying, well, I need my boyfriend to get his shit together and make some money so that, he's not constantly in debt. So that then when I go and see my family, they're like, how's your business going? Oh, fuck, we're so much in debt. Yeah, and then when you explain that to me, I'm like, oh, that's why you put pressure on me with the money stuff. I understand now. And then all of the fucking conflict disappears. So, and again, to bring it back to the find common ground thing, we both hear that, like, you hear my story about your appearance, and then you go, yeah, and I have the same thing. I want myself to look really pretty, and I want you, Andy, to look good. I want you to do the bare minimum. Okay, I guess we both agree on that. We both want our partners to put some effort into their appearance, and we want ourselves to put effort in. Okay, and then with the money thing, I can see the overlapping as well. I'm like, yeah, I would like my family to, you know, every time I talk to them to not have to say, hey, I'm $100,000 in debt or whatever. Like, I want that too. Oh, fuck, we actually want the same thing. Most of the time you find that you want the same thing. There's always, always, always common ground. I did this podcast like years ago that was essentially like how to de-escalate every situation, something like that. Because someone had asked the question like, yo, I keep getting into fights every time I go clubbing and bars. And I gently suggested, well, if it's happening all the time, it's you. But one thing that I said was, dude, anytime someone is trying to escalate with you and cause a fight, look for common ground. Like if some guy comes up to you and he's like, bro, are you fucking like hitting on my woman? Like, I'll fucking hit you. Find the common ground there. Be like, dude, oh my God, yeah, I personally don't like it when someone hits on, a girl that I'm dating as well. Man, I'm so fucking sorry, dude. If I was you, I'd be feeling the same way, dude. And then he's like, yeah, fucking damn right, man. You're like, bro, like, dude, let me buy you a beer or something. Dude, I'd literally be as angry as you right now. If I was in your position, bro, you're actually being really calm and rational right now. This is nuts that you're being so, thank you for being so fucking nice to me, man. I'd probably be a bit angrier than you. Dude, you put your hand out, you shake his fucking hand. I've been not in that exact situation, but when I was doing the approach anxiety program where I was going around like doing drills and hitting on women, twice I hit on a woman who was with a guy. And I didn't know that he was there. Like he just kind of came out of nowhere. And both times I was like, oh, bro, my bad. I didn't realize that you two were together. Dude, you're such a fucking cute couple. I'm sorry about that, man. Like, and I would put my hand out and shake his hand. Both times the guy was like, nah, dude, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. So finding that like common ground and saying, what do we actually agree on in this argument? That has just been like a fucking game changer. Any more on that?
Mm-mm.
All right. Okay. This is the one where I won't interrupt when you read it, but just know in my brain that I'm changing.
And he doesn't like the word compromise.
I appreciate the word compromise, but I would never use it myself.
Number 7, compromise and win-win solutions. Strive for solutions that satisfy both parties' needs to promote a healthy balance in the relationship. Seek compromises that take into account each other's desires and concerns. So I think you would agree with everything other than the use of the word compromises because you've got a bone to pick with it. But
okay, so my additional caveat that I give with the word compromises is people often take the word compromise, like I said before, to mean, okay, so I should do something that I don't want and that I'm unhappy with, and then I'm just going to be passive aggressive 5 minutes later or a day later or a week later. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to internalize that I'm not allowed to have the things I want and a relationship has to be suffering. So that's why I wouldn't use the word compromise. I would just, ready, watch this. Watch this. There we go.
I would just do that. Solutions.
Yeah, I would just say look for solutions where you're both happy and like actually check. And a lot of the time when you do that and when you take away the word compromise, watch this. Isn't that amazing? There we go. Look, it's fucking good now. I love this. That's how I would have written that. Literally like that. And so, because if you take away the word compromise, if you take away the word suffering, if you take away the word sacrifice, my God, look at the word sacrifice. If you take that away, now all you're doing is playing to win. You're looking for solutions. You're on the same team. You go, how can we both walk away with a victory condition each? Like, how can we both be fucking happy? Rather than, how can we walk away with a compromise? A compromise means that both people were mildly happy, but one or both of them might have a bit of unresolved tension there or internalize some sadness or fuck, I didn't get everything I wanted. No, fuck that. Like, how do you get everything you want? And when you have that mindset, of like, I want us both to win, then what you will do is exactly what it says here. You will strive for solutions. And so if you're going for a win-win condition all the time in the relationship, let's say there's a situation where one of you is unhappy and the other one is happy. Like, let's pick something that we used to go through where you wanted the kitchen cleaned earlier. Like
I think we had this discussion like twice in the whole time I was living here, but yeah.
Yeah. So you wanted but it's I have to reach for straws of stuff we've argued over. Because it isn't a whole lot recently.
Recently, sure.
In the last year, that's the only thing I could pick up. And that was a discussion.
Yeah, and I got grumpy because you were like, I'm not going to clean the kitchen.
I was like,
Shit.
look, I appreciate that, but I'm not going to. And then we looked for a solution. That was kind of the point.
Yeah.
So for full context, you like the kitchen being cleaned more often than I do, like quicker, earlier.
Yeah, I do it basically multiple times a day.
More regularly.
Yeah.
And I do it once a week.
Yep.
And so, we talk about it multiple times and I say, well, look, it's my apartment. You're just crashing here for a little bit. I don't really care about cleaning the kitchen. You're welcome to clean it as much as you want, but you're asking me to clean it. I don't really want to. Like, here's my explanation. Here's where I'm at, blah, blah, blah. That sounds like one person winning and one person losing, doesn't it? It sounds like she has to just go away and go, oh, guess I don't get what I want. But then the way we look for that win-win solution is I say, okay, what do you want from me? Or what can we do right now? Or let's talk through this. Or how can we make sure you're happy? Or give me some understanding. Tell me why you want it more cleaned more regularly. How can I help you clean it more regularly? And that might not involve me cleaning it. And that was the ultimate decision that we came to. I was like, look, I'm not going to clean it any quicker than I like to because I'm doing what I want to do. But we talk through it. I give you understanding. You eventually get to a point where you're like, you know what? And there was a whole lot. I'm skipping a whole lot. There was a whole lot of additional steps that we talked through and did and solutions and try different things and all of that. But eventually you get to a point where it's like, okay, look, the kitchen is going to, you found peace with it is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. And our ultimate win-win solution has been that we don't live together.
Yeah. So sometimes that's even the fucking solution. It's like, okay, what if you just, and that was,
I love this solution.
Because
this is our solution.
Caleb Jones, who's one of my favorite people, this is his fucking solution to this exact discussion. His solution is, he says, any woman that I will ever live with for the rest of my life, I'm going to make sure there are 2 kitchens. And he literally advocates for that. He says any other guy who feels the same way, or who has these disagreements with kitchen, because he says 2 things, kitchen and bathroom are the 2 things that men and women in relationships tend to disagree with. And so he says, for me, the solution is I just only ever live somewhere that has 2 bathrooms, 2 kitchens. And he says it doesn't have to be a full-on kitchen. He basically...
It's not like you cook much.
That's him. He's like, I need a microwave, I need a sink, and he's like, I can just use the bathroom for the sink, so I don't even need that. But he's like, I just set up a little mini fridge, a little stovetop cooker thing, and a microwave, and I have somewhere that I can wash my dishes. And he goes, that's my kitchen. And then she can have the full-on kitchen because I don't really give a shit. And he goes, that's her kitchen. I don't fucking touch it. I don't go near it, and she can do whatever the hell she wants with that. And he does the same with money. So money's another thing that people argue over. And you and I share money, but we also have slightly separate money.
Yeah, we're figuring that one out.
Yeah, but that's his thing. He's like, no, I just split the fucking money and I give her some amount of money, or if we're in a business together, we figure out the logistics, and she has her own bank accounts. I don't go fucking near that, and she doesn't go near mine, and we keep it separate. So that's a solution. But you see how you do that solution, and that's ours. You're right. Our solution is you're like, well, I'm just going to live in my own apartment. And I'm like, cool. That sounds great. That's a great solution. But you see how you'll find a solution, because you'll just go hunting for it. You won't stop until you find a solution where you're both happy. But if you say the word compromise, or you say the word sacrifice, a relationship requires sacrifice, you'll stop halfway to that point of trying to find a win-win solution. You'll get halfway there and you'll go, okay, fuck it, I give up. That's what I see a compromise or a sacrifice as. It's like, fine, I give up. I can't be bothered finding a solution. I quit, fine. I'll just be unhappy. It's fine, whatever. I'll deal with it. No!
Rather than it being win-win, it ends up being lose-lose. You're both just a bit unhappy and resentful at the situation.
That's why I have such not a strong reaction, but why I want to jump in there. I'm really passionate about it, because it's no, you don't have to sacrifice or have compromise in a relationship. That is a big lie that is told to so many people, along with the lie of life requires sacrifices. Big goals require lots of pain and hard work. You can't have anything for free. Money doesn't grow on trees. All of these lies that are just told to sort of sell you that beautiful sounding lie of, I have to go through pain and suffering in order to reach my goals or to have a happy relationship. You're allowed to, And it's not, to be clear, it's not a bad thing if you make some compromises and sacrifices. You could do whatever the hell you want. I just don't believe that lie. I don't tell that lie. I never told that lie from the beginning. And we put a lot of effort into getting to that point where it's like, okay, what tools do we need to set up? What knowledge do we need to have? What things do we need to put into place so that we can both always feel listened to and heard? So that if there ever is a point in time where one of us feels like I won but they lost, or if any of us ever feel like I didn't win here, fuck, I'm not really happy with this. I made a compromise or a sacrifice and I'm not really happy with it. We set up tools and things in place so the other person can come to them and say, I thought I was happy with that discussion we had, but I think I'm actually unhappy. I don't think we resolved it. And then the other person can go, oh, okay, like, what do we want to do about that? And like, that is my favorite fucking saying that you and I say in our relationship, where I'm like, okay, what do we want to do about that? That's like my go-to answer. Whenever you come to me and you're like, or I come to you and we're like, man, I'm really unhappy. We're like, okay, what do we fucking do? So it's like immediately go hunting for solutions. You know, in my video course, there's an entire chapter called Every Problem Has a Solution. And if you just believe that so firmly that like we will find a solution where we're both happy, and we might have to think out of the box, because remember that the vast majority of human beings don't think like that. They don't think that every single relationship and every conflict in that relationship can be happy with no compromise and no sacrifice. They don't believe that. They really think that's an insane notion. And so most people will stop short of finding a solution. Most people aren't going to say, oh, what if you just live somewhere that has 2 kitchens? Most people wouldn't have even contemplated that idea because they stopped halfway to getting towards that point and they just said, oh, I guess you just have to have some arguments over the kitchen.
Yeah, there's like a stubbornness of like we're going to need to find a way to both put up with the situation that we're not
That's what
entirely
most people
happy
think,
with.
yeah. They just have to put up with it. It's like, no, there was a solution. If you kept looking for another week or another month, you would have found an amazing solution where you both go, oh, fuck, why didn't we just do that? And you and I have found solutions to some like wild fucking things that we didn't think. Probably our open relationship is the biggest example of that. But we found solutions to so many different things where it looked like, oh, I think one of us is just going to have to compromise here and we're going to have to be unhappy.
Yeah, or the relationship ends because it's like, we're not okay with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be clear, if you end the relationship, like, beautiful. But yeah, in those moments where we're like, fuck, maybe we have to break up. And I was like, okay, look, if we break up, that's fine. We can break up. But I think there might be a fucking solution here. And I'm willing to look for it. Are you willing to look for it? And you were like, okay, I think I'll keep looking for it for a little bit. And then we just kept looking and then boom, you find one. And it's like, hey, wait, would you be happy with this solution? And you're like, yeah. But would you be happy with that solution? And I'm like, yeah, I really would. Yeah, this would be like an amazing solution. And we're like, holy shit, did we just find a solution to a supposedly like unsolvable fucking problem that was causing all of this conflict? And that's happened so many times in our relationship where there's all of this conflict.
Yeah, as you said before, like the open relationship situation, I broke up with you, like 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Because you were like, I'm never going to be monogamous. And I was like, at some point I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And then we kind of separated for a day, and then you reached out and you said like, hey,
it was literally this conversation.
What is the solution to this?
Yeah. So basically we thought there was an impossible point in the relationship where I wanted something and you wanted something else. And we thought there was just no common ground there. It's not compatible. It's over. We split, like you said, for a day. And I was just thinking, I was like doing all this thinking during that day. And I was like,
yeah. And you reached out to a few people.
Yeah. Got some advice and talked about it. And then I reached out to you and I was like, wait, would you be happy with this solution? And you were like, yes, I would be deeply happy with that solution. Would you? Like, would you be okay with that? And I was like, I wouldn't just be okay with it. This is kind of what I want. This would be cool. Like, I'd be very happy with this for the rest of my life.
And it took some figuring out from there, but it came to a point where we're both very happy with the situation.
Yeah. And then I was like, wait, I said this to you a couple of times. It was a clumsy way of saying it, but at the time I was like, wait, why did we break up? Obviously we broke up so that we could solve that problem. But at the time I was like, wait, we solved this. How do we solve this so easily? It seemed like the solution just came. It was just right there once we were willing to look for it. But yeah, I think a lot of the time in a relationship, there's arguments, there's even breakups sometimes because people think, oh, we just fight too much over money. We should just break up. And it's like, what if we had separate bank accounts and we just didn't touch each other's money? Oh, wait, that would be a solution.
Yeah. And so I think that leads beautifully into point number 8, which is learn and grow. And that often that some of the biggest disagreements that we've had, or points where, I broke up with you, or you almost broke up, like those big conversations
broke up with you
that are very emotional at the time, often lead to, if you're willing to work through it, the most benefit for the relationship. They end up becoming really, really positive discussions if you're able to treat it as a beautiful learning opportunity.
And I think let's add in just a discussion again on self-improvement and independence. I've done so many videos on my channel, on this YouTube channel. You can just search the playlist. There's a relationships playlist. And I talk a lot about independence in relationships. It's probably the thing I talk about the most. A really good book on that is I Need Your Love. Is That True? By Byron Katie. It's a book on self-love and independence and building your own life that you're really happy with. But I think that self-improvement mindset, both improving yourself, like both of you doing that, and you can't control the other person and make them improve, which is why I did a video where I said, at least for me, it is a mandatory requirement that any person I'm in a relationship with has a self-improvement mindset, like a growth mindset. Like they want to be a little bit better every week than they were the week before. That for me is just so fucking mandatory. I would even go so far, I can't say this is a universal rule, but if someone was to come to me and say, hey, can you please give me one rule for relationships? I would say find a partner that has a growth mindset. No exceptions to that. And again, I can't speak for every single relationship, but if you have a self-improvement mindset, if you're at least wanting to work on and improve the relationship and make it a little bit better, then you're only on the up and up and everything will get better. And not that you'll be perfect, because we're not perfect, but I think that's the core thing. I think self-improvement. And like we said, we do a check-in every single week, once a week. We spend an entire day together. It was yesterday that we did it. We've done this for like 3 or 4 years now.
It's been a while.
A long time. And we go over like, what are we happy with in the relationship? What are we grateful for? You know, what things do we love about each other? We celebrate those things. We talk about like, what were our victories and our successes last week? What do we want to work on this week? How can we make the relationship 1% better? That's a question that's in there right now. How can we make our sex life 1% better every week? That's what we've got in there. Yeah, and you change those questions, you know, whenever you feel like you want to. We've changed them thousands of times. You're constantly like tweaking them and saying different questions. And you have a whole bunch of questions about yourself as well. So I have a whole bunch of questions that focus on me and the things that I'm working on and my own happiness, my own love and my own gratitude. And you have a bunch of questions about you. And we ask each other those questions and we bounce off each other. So it's a beautiful opportunity to come together and work on myself. You work on yourself, and then us to, you know, with that union, work on the relationship together as well. And I think having that means that anytime we do have a conflict or a problem in the relationship, we're both so focused already on looking for solutions and improving things that our go-to, you know, statement is, okay, how do we solve this? Or what can we do to make it? What would you like from me? What can we do? How can we fix this? Like, how do we make this better? All right, what do we do? Rather than, oh, we have this conflict. This is so unfair. You never listen to me. Like that stuck mindset, that fixed mindset of suffering. So hope that was helpful. Probably, honestly, the book that helps the most with all of this stuff is that Byron Katie book, I Need Your Love. Is That True? And probably my video course, the Play to Win video course. It's like all the mindsets about like all of this sort of stuff. You can pay whatever you want for that. Pay $1 if you want to. Links in the description below. As always, ladies and gentlemen,
go out there and crush your goals.
And have fun doing it. And guess what? Because you're an absolute legend and you stuck around to the end, you get to hear about my amazing one-on-one coaching deal that I'm offering just for a limited amount of time. Oh my God. That's right. I'm offering one-on-one coaching with me and access to my group coaching program. You get to sit down with me and do a one-on-one call every single week, as well as a group coaching call every single week. You get access to me every single day. You can send me messages. I will get in there. I will build you that amazing life that you have been dreaming of, whether that's sex, whether that's dating, money, relationships, happiness, peace, whatever it might be that you want. Let's make it happen together. And if you pay in full, you get an extra 4 weeks instead of the usual 3 months. Here is just a little bit of what some of our clients have achieved. Taylor had a threesome, tons of sex, embraced honesty with girls he's dating, embraced peace and love, and he's a coach in our program too. Laz, look at this handsome guy, and I'm not just saying that because he's bald. He more than doubled his monthly income, earning $45K a month. He had a ton of sex, embraced honesty, and did so much more. Corky had a threesome, sex with 7 women. We helped him start his own business, and he learned to love himself. And look at that cool BDSM picture. Legend. All of that and more is yours for $20,000, and we have payment plans as long as you pay $10K up front, and we can negotiate the rest of the payment plan. Link in the description below. Click that, mention that you want one-on-one coaching, and let's do something amazing together. Limited time only. This is the only time I'm going to offer this. Let's go, baby.